in giving a huge round of applause to Mr. Goenka and his team. I think this is excellent. And as the Secretary mentioned to you, this is an effort which keeps improving every year, and an effort, I think, which is very critical. I'll just take 3 minutes. And the idea is, let me just share with you what has happened with Startup India and where India is today. And you heard the Secretary mention to you about the policies and this entire effort. And if you recollect, the Prime Minister launched the startup thing last year in January. So we are close to about getting 2 years in it. The Secretary mentioned that today we are number 3 in the world in numbers of startups. We are adding about 4 startups a day. And by that run rate, before the end of this year, India and all of you will be number 2 startup nation of the world. You are about 20,000 startups today, and you're growing at a much faster rate than anywhere else. And the more interesting thing of that is, 9% of those startups are from the ladies, the female gender. Shraddha is there. But the more interesting thing of that the women entrepreneurs section is growing by over 100%. So soon you will see that segment take over aggressively. Let me a few other interesting pointers. The average age of a founder startup in India is 31 years. And last year, there was a survey of 150,000 graduates. 55% of them wanted to do a startup. So now what is interesting, 85% of these startups have come from the 4 metros and the 2 additional metros. 85%. But let me tell you where that change is coming. So this June, the Secretary launched the Startup Hub of India. How many of you have heard of the Startup Hub? Okay. So Startup Hub is a virtual marketplace for all startups. In a short period of time, we already have about 160,000 people using it. But more interesting, they've worked with about 61,000 queries so far. And you know what was interesting? Close to 75% of those queries came from T2, T3 cities of India. Ladies and gentlemen, that is where the new India is. That is where the growth engine of India of tomorrow is coming from. And you know what is furthermore interesting? That the solutions and the queries which are coming from these towns and cities are the ones which are applicable across 7 billion people of this world. They are not just a small aggregation model. They are not just a fintech model. They are models which impact us in our daily lives at that level. And these 61,000 queries have come from 1,099 cities of India. I just wanted to remind you, the total number of cities and towns in India is 7,935. So it covers a large percentage of that. Now let me give you another interesting thing on that. 2/3 of these queries came in Hindi and a regional language. You know, most of you sitting in this room are privileged lots. You come from these institutions and towns, you have the easy access to funding and mentoring, but this is where the government is trying to reach. So what is the objective of Mr. Abhishek and his team, as the Secretary was saying, of the government? One is to increase the number of startups in India. 2 is to increase the success rate of those startups. You know, globally, and coming to your point, only 3 to 5% startups are successful. That is why when he said that funding should be difficult, it is important. It is the fundamental law that your model may not really exist or may not be that applicable. And that is where you do need to convince somebody else that it is a good model, it is your learning. But at the same point of time, all the efforts with the Secretary and the government are making is to try and bring in more funding into it. Yes, there is a big gap. If I give you last year's statistics, US has put in about $69 billion in startups, China 31. We are about $4 to $5 billion on that one. but that number is increasing very rapidly. And the last one, which is what I wanted to bring about. The big change which has happened, Shraddha said she's seeing that change over 10 years. Frankly, the biggest thing which we all live in today is that what you are facing and experiencing is the most unique transformation ever in human history. Never before in the history of mankind have lives changed so fast and on such a wide scale. Think about it. And let me give you a statistic on that one. AT&T, the world's largest telecom company, took 65 years before they came to a market valuation of $1 billion. How many of you here have used Ola? How many of you have used Uber? So let me tell you how India did better. Uber took 4 years to reach a valuation of 1 billion. You know how long did it take Ola? 3 years. Let me put that in perspective for you. TCS took 35 years. Infosys, your very own, took 22 years. Zomato, I think more of you on the metros would have heard of that, took 7 years. Paytm took 5 years. And you know what is the fastest in the world which has ever happened? 1 year. In 1 year, a startup got a valuation of $1 billion. The name of that startup is Slack. It is out of the US. So the only thought I want to leave you behind with is, one, India is moving from the metros to those small towns and cities. That is now going to be the new engine of India. And number two, all the privileges which you get from the metros will go away fast if you don't have that fire in the belly to fight for that extra dollar to come your way. And most importantly, never has change been as rapid. So you need to reinvent yourself every which day. And that is where the Secretary and his team and the entire government are with you to help you in that effort. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.